Hey guys, so the 2021 Royal Rumble went down last night. I'm just going to do a quick recap video and share my thoughts on it. So let's hop right in. The first match was on the kickoff show, and it was a bit of a shocker. It was the Women's Tag Team Championship match. Asuka and Charlotte Flair defending their belts against Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. Overall, the match was pretty solid. It was like, I think the first time, aside from winning the belts, that Charlotte and Asuka actually teamed up. And it's weird because their storylines at the moment have nothing to do with each other. Bliss and Asuka are in a feud. Flair and Lacey Evans are in a feud. And that did come into play later in the match. Lacey Evans would come to the ring with Ric Flair. Charlotte would have, I think, the figure 8 on, I want to say Baszler maybe. This would allow Evans to deck Charlotte Flair with the brass knuckles, breaks up the hold. Eventually, I think Nia Jax pins Charlotte for the win. So Asuka is no longer a double champ as her and Flair lost the belts. Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler are your new women's tag team champions. Hopefully that goes somewhere because the belts kind of just died when they were on Asuka and Flair. And as for the storyline with Charlotte Flair and Lacey Evans, that is not over yet. And I could definitely see them building this up to WrestleMania since Ric Flair is involved in it. After that, kicked off the main show with the Universal Championship match, the WWE Championship match, Goldberg challenging Drew McIntyre. And if you've ever seen a Goldberg match in the WWE as of late, it is nothing but spamming finishers and a 5-minute sprint match. That's what this case was. There's a scary moment. Goldberg got Drew McIntyre up with a jackhammer. It looked like he was going to drop McIntyre on his head. Luckily, that did not happen, but in the end, it was Drew McIntyre who survived the spamming finisher best to hit Goldberg with a Claymore to retain the WWE Championship. Not sure where Goldberg goes from here. He may have a special appearance at WrestleMania. Who knows? As for McIntyre, lots of areas for him to go in, or lots of rivalries for him to go in after this. I could see AJ Styles on the horizon. I also see him getting put back to a feud with Randy Orton for a very specific reason, which I'll detail later. So after that, we had the Women's Championship match for SmackDown. Carmella challenging Sasha Banks. This was a really good match. This showed how much Carmella has evolved as an in-ring performer, and her and Sasha Banks had a really, really good bout. In the end, though, it was Sasha Banks who was able to retain the SmackDown Women's Championship. Carmella, though, looked really, really strong in defeat. I think she's going to be moved into... They may extend this feud maybe one more pay-per-view while the Women's Royal Rumble winner gets set up for her feud with Banks. That's what I'm guessing anyway. But tonight, anyway, it was Banks prevailing over Carmella. After that, we had a little segment backstage with the New Day. They had a bit of a reunion, and they were sporting Brody Lee gear, which was very cool to see. Brody Lee had just passed away, and the New Day, everybody in the wrestling industry basically saying how good of a guy Brody Lee was. So the fact that New Day was wearing Brody Lee inspired gear was really cool. After that, we had the Women's Royal Rumble. Bayley was number 1, Naomi was number 2, and then the rest just kept coming. He had former wrestlers in there like Tori Wilson, Victoria, a surprise appearance from Jillian Hall. Mickie James was in there. A couple NXT call-ups like Shotzi Blackheart was in there, Dakota Kai. When we got to the final 3, it was Charlotte Flair, go figure, Rhea Ripley, and Bianca Belair. Ripley and Belair thankfully eliminated Flair, so they were the final 2, and Belair ended up clotheslining Rhea Ripley over the top rope to win the Women's Royal Rumble, so she is the number 1 contender for either Raw Women's title or the SmackDown Women's title. Since Asuka's in that feud with Bliss right now, I think the better storyline anyway, regardless of that Raw title feud going on, would be Belair versus Sasha Banks, the EST of WWE versus The Boss. I think that would be a phenomenal match. The build for that would be really, really good. Sasha Banks thrives as a heel as well as a face, so turning her heel would not damage her character at all. And Belair giving a very heartfelt, emotional victory speech after the Royal Rumble. You could definitely play that up, building up to this feud between Belair and Sasha Banks as we enter WrestleMania. After that, we had a kind of a stupid segment where Peter Rosenberg gained the 24/7 championship by pinning R-Truth. And as you know that the Women's Royal Rumble, R-Truth lost the title to Alicia Fox, who made a surprise return, but then he gained the title back after Alicia Fox was eliminated. So after that, he appears in a segment with Peter Rosenberg in the panel. He ends up getting pinned by Peter Rosenberg, who is now the 24/7 champion as of this video recording. After that, we had the last man standing match for the Universal Championship, Kevin Owens challenging Roman Reigns. This was a really, really good match. The end kind of sucked, but everything up until that point was phenomenal. They were fighting in the LED stands. Kevin Owens took a big bump out of the stands onto a table that just smacked real hard. They went into the backstage area, which is like, it looked like the outfield of the Rays Stadium, and they had like a practice ring set up. And then Kevin Owens was walking back there. Roman Reigns mows him down with a golf cart, a la Sammy Guevara and Matt Hardy. And then there's a spot where Roman Reigns was set up on a table. Kevin Owens gets on a forklift, jumps off the top, Swanton Bomb, Jeff Hardy style, smashes through Roman Reigns through this table. Really, really cool spot. And then they make their way back to the main arena. Reigns spears Kevin Owens through the electronic LED background. Kevin Owens gets to his feet at the count of 9 after just rolling off the stage onto his feet. And then there's a part where, this is where things kind of got messed up. So Owens handcuffs Roman Reigns to the structure. Reigns can't get up. The ref is at 9. Reigns grabs the ref and tosses him into an LED light, knocks the ref out. Another ref comes in, starts counting. Paul Heyman is struggling to unlock Roman Reigns from these handcuffs. So once the ref gets to count of 6, he has to stop counting, because the match would in theory be over, because there was no way Reigns was getting out of his cuffs. He's in there for like a solid 30 seconds. But after he gets free of the cuffs, he ends up choking out Kevin Owens to retain the Universal Championship. Aside from the ending, this was a really, really fun match. Really, really cool spots here with the Swanton, and then Owens falling through the table, Reigns running Owens over with the golf cart. Good match if you can get past the botched ending with the handcuff spot. And Roman Reigns is still your Universal Champion. So after that, we entered the Men's Royal Rumble. Edge started out this match with Randy Orton. They were 1 and 2, as was announced on Fox Sports 1. And then he had a couple surprise appearances from Hurricane and Kane. But the biggest surprise to me, there weren't many, but the biggest surprise to me was Christian making his return. And him and Edge have an emotional moment. They reunite in the ring, they give each other a hug. It was really cool to see. Edge and Christian, ENC, the 5-second poses, they were big when I was a kid. To see them back in the ring again was awesome. You could definitely tell the emotion on their face. It was a who's cutting the onions type of moment there. But yeah, so the final couple wrestlers, it was Rollins who made a surprise return, Christian, Strowman, and Edge. Orton had been taken out earlier in the match. Edge was, they were wailing on each other outside of the ring. Edge hits Orton with a chair on the leg, so he gets taken to the back. This was very early, so you know what's going to happen. Christian and Rollins are eliminated with Strowman, so Edge thinks he's won, but then Randy Orton pops down from nowhere, tries to toss Edge over the top rope. Edge reverses it, tosses Orton over the top rope. So Edge is the Royal Rumble winner. First guy since Shawn Michaels in 1995 to be the first man in and the last man standing. He went the distance, so he is the winner of the 2021 Royal Rumble match and the main event championship match at WrestleMania against either Drew McIntyre or Roman Reigns. I do not think it's going to be Roman Reigns. I think he's going to challenge for the WWE Championship and stay on Raw. And with a couple pay-per-views left between now and WrestleMania, I think that Orton's going to wrap up this feud with The Fiend, and they're going to find a way to get the belt on him off of McIntyre, and sets up Edge versus Orton at WrestleMania, possibly the big final blow-off to this rivalry that's been going on ever since Edge returned at last year's Royal Rumble. But yeah, that was Royal Rumble 2021. Overall, a very fun show. The matches delivered, in my opinion. Even the worst match on the card was still enjoyable. And to me, that was the kickoff match, the kickoff show match. That was still solid wrestling. Even though it's weird that the Women's Tag Team Championship match was on a kickoff show. But yeah, other than that, no complaints from me. Fun Royal Rumble to watch, and I recommend checking it out. And that's all I got. If you like this video, feel free to give a thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. Check out my website, cincyfanzone.blogspot.com. Give me a follow on Twitter and on Instagram. Links to both of those are in the description below. And as always, guys, thanks for watching.